Ladies and gentlemen, we got a hurricane coming, but the show still goes on. Welcome to the Florida Panthers #1 Florida Hockey Podcast. 3, 2, 1.
Nice. It's Cats and Bolts, Ben, by the way. That's what we're called, Cats and... Nice work by Benjamin Castro, our producer. Everybody loves him, and he's becoming quickly the biggest star in sports in South Florida. Hi. Welcome to the show. Rod Peterson, Sarina Taylor. It's what we're calling, as you can see, the Storm episode. I had thought about opening week episode, season begins episode, but here we are talking about the National Hockey League. And I think I said to Sarina, what a quick week. It was just last week. I said, are you ready? Well, it's coming, a little like Hurricane Milton. Whether you like it or not, it's coming, but the NHL season is here. How you feeling?
Good. It's been one day since the season started, so... Tickety-boo. Love it. I'm more interested in the background here. We have Benny.
Okay. Do you want to tell us, Ben, about that? Do you want to, Ben, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So this morning, a client came in, or actually sent me this on their way into work, and they were like, hey, the show must go on. I was like, I guess so. But it was pretty cool because I know it was the opening night last night, so... Yeah, that's a tornado. That's as real as it gets.
Yeah,
right
if there wasn't enough going on with Hurricane Milton, there's 2 tornadoes in the area too. So all we can say to the viewers is to stay safe. And look, our guests that we will be trotting through here over the course of this hockey season, for instance, Jeff Chikrin, 5 seasons on Bally Sports Florida, not anymore on the Panthers broadcast. He's going to be with us, but he's staying in Ottawa till the end of October. Can you blame him? Not a bad decision by him. Jeff Rimmer, the original voice of the Florida Panthers, is going to be on the program. This is his first season retired after 30-plus in the National Hockey League, but he's in Toronto at a wedding. You seeing a theme? Sarina, people don't want to be in Florida right now this week, and I get it.
It's typically people leave anyway this time of year, especially if they're retired, and it's still hurricane season. We had a late one this year. But
yes.
Yeah, they just bounced, and they're like, I'll come back at my convenience, which I don't blame them.
Well, and Ed Jovanovski, for reasons that I won't get into here today, has been pressed into service on the Florida Panthers television broadcast. Eddie is a veteran of this show and an alum, but he's not around. So I'll guarantee you we will keep it entertaining as we always do here on Season 2, Episode 6 of the Cats and Bolts podcast. But I guess I should make this point number 1 and the most important. The results are in, and it's resounding. America votes, Sarina. Last week, we said who's got the bigger ego out of the two of us. Do you want to know what it ended? Do you care to know how it ended, the result of the vote?
Sure. I mean, I don't really care, but just for fun. Because there were some things Rod was telling me. He's like, this person voted for you, and this person voted. I'm like, son of a bitch. I'll be coming for you.
Yeah, and some abstained, which 89% of you people said Sarina has the bigger ego of the two. And the amazing thing is you seem surprised by that.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I'm confident. I don't run on ego. Nothing in my life runs on ego, but I'm confident.
Yeah.
There's a difference, but if it's portrayed like that, I don't give a shit.
The definition of ego, you can look it up, Ben, is the definition, it is your own perception of your own self-worth. So no, she doesn't have a big ego. I don't have a big ego, but apparently the viewers think you do.
It was fun though. It was entertaining to ask. I'm like, get me a list of those people. We're gonna have some conversations coming up. No, It was really fun. I'm glad everybody voted.
The Dodge family, we're coming after you.
Yeah, they know.
You can write that down, Ben. We got to clip that one. Here's another one. I said we're going to be entertaining today. How do you like us so far? Tuesday night was the banner-raising ceremony for your Florida Panthers. Sarina didn't go. And if you were there, one of the 19,813 plus the media, you would have received one of these beautiful banners from the Florida Panthers. And they came and handed this out to me in the press box. Actually, a couple. And the Panthers said, here's one for Sarina. I'm like, do you not watch the show?
Do you not get it?
Yeah, she ain't here. She ain't here. So do you want to explain why you didn't go to the banner-raising ceremony?
Well, why would I do that? The last time I was in that rink was Game 7, where my team that I put my heart and soul into every single year for the entire multiple years of my life Why would I want to go watch the team that beat them raise the banner? That is literally the stupidest thing I could possibly have done. No chance. And there's no B. That's it. It's just A.
Yeah.
Just A.
Well, fair enough. And listen, I don't want to get her worked up, and I sure as hell don't need a fight because I have to live with her. But one of your...
He's going to try.
No, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight, but we're in the show business. Jonah said, it's a piece of cloth. Tell her to get her ass down here. So, it's a piece of cloth. Before the show, you asked me, is there a time limit on getting over all the things you said?
No.
What?
You asked me if there was a time limit on getting over this. Like, when can I expect an expiration for this? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's not last night. Not at 5 p.m. yesterday. There was no chance I was going to be like, cool, let me go watch this. What Oilers fan? This is the difference between Panthers fans and Oilers fans. Panthers fans are like, I don't understand. It's just a piece of thing. I don't get it. Oilers fans still want to kill themselves. I don't know one Oilers fan that would be like, sign me up to go watch that. You can take that to the bank.
Mm. Plus, you were working, and I feel like, Ben, you got a couple of great clips right out of the gate here for the program. I mean, I trust me, I get it. But I just think of all the things in my life personally that you've said, it's in the past. Get over it. That doesn't apply to the Oilers. I'm just saying, is it different?
Yeah, because the Oilers are like in here for me. There's not a lot of things like even my job or my company or anything like that doesn't hit me the same way because it's been something that I came out of the womb with. I don't know what it's like having my right arm. If I lost my right arm, I would be lost without it forever.
So fair.
It's right. So that's just the way it's always been. I don't know any other way.
So I'll just say this because Brent from Wellington, Florida is watching the program right now. I had 2 banners and I'm like, well, I certainly only need one. So I ran down into the crowd and I'm like, here's one for your son, RJ. And all of a sudden everybody's waving these things going, we all got them. I'm like, there's 20,000 of these handed out tonight.
What they should have done was I won't wreck it. What they should have done was put a retractable stick and use it as like a white flag night last night. Just a retractable little.
Okay.
Just for future marketing purposes.
One thing that I wanted to say, to get down to business. How much time have we killed here, Ben? Of Mickey Mousin?
We're at about 7-8 minutes.
7 minutes of complete bullshit so far.
We're on hurricane time.
That's what I'm
We're
saying.
on hurricane time. We're going to go till the power goes out.
What's it,
Say,
Ben?
we're hanging out, guys.
Till there's
I
a tornado.
I need some company here. I need some company.
Ben's got a long night and potentially a few days of work
It's
here.
either go home and eat our hurricane snacks or sit here because Benny knows what I'm talking about.
I got a lot of coffee. We got, whatever we need.
But to get serious, here's what I don't understand. And I would jump on a grenade for the woman. She knows that, and you know that. And her hockey knowledge, while we don't always agree, I certainly respect it. So why the hell do you think Jeremy Swayman didn't start for the Boston Bruins in goal? I've heard 2 explanations. One, a Bruins fan buddy of mine goes, they must be saving him for the home opener against Montreal. Somebody said, they wrote into my TV talk show and said, he's rusty. Jeremy Swayman held out in the preseason, finally got his 8-year, $66 million deal on the weekend, and then they don't play him?
Okay, we probably won't know. They probably don't release it. Maybe he was sick. Maybe he was battling something. Who knows? But the reality of it is, what they said about him being rusty, you know that goaltenders, as being one, are head cases, for lack of better. And I say that tongue in cheek.
Were you a goalie?
But this is what I'm saying. Goalies it's a more of a mental game for a goaltender. If he hasn't played and you throw him in, that's why there's preseason, so that the teams are ready. You throw him in the net in Florida, the defending Stanley Cup champions, it could destroy him if he gets lit up. You know as well as any goaltender, that's why goaltenders get pulled. It messes with their psyche. So if that's why they didn't play him because he's rusty, it's probably more of from a psychological standpoint. It's not a stupid move. Mm-hmm. Get him a little bit more ice time.
Yeah, I think more than anything, I was like, why is he? It was a shock. They announced it at the morning skate that he wasn't going to play. And then Eunice Korpisalo goes in and gets shelled. Like, I write a column in the South Florida Tribune. You can go read it. I said the Panthers picked up right where they left off. They jumped out to a 4-1 lead. It swelled to 5-1 in the second period, and the crowd started chanting, "We want Swayman." which had everybody laughing in the press box. It was kind of funny, but I never saw it explained from the Bruins why he didn't play. And it's not, they don't have to. But to me, it doesn't really make any sense. And the other thing is, you were talking about not in game shape and stuff. We're talking about playing goal. Wind and conditioning isn't a factor, not to the degree that it would be for a Barkov or a Nikita Zadorov, who I quite frankly enjoyed him being on Kachuk's ass all night.
Zadorov won't lay off either.
No, and they played together.
Great player.
Zadorov he was a pain in the ass. That was his Bruins debut, and he was pretty good. So, anyways, those were the explanations from the fans and the apologists, but nothing from the Bruins. So we'll see how Swayman. Well, so if he was rusty for Tuesday, what makes him not rusty Thursday? Just a couple more days of practice.
Yeah, especially if they're playing at home, though. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it's that big of an issue that they're going to talk about. It doesn't matter.
I agree, but I mean, and fans said too, it was one game of 82, and that's all true. One last thing, if you go and look at my story at, our story, Cats and Bolts podcast on Instagram, some guy stood in front of the press box with a sign. I'm not going to send it to Ben to show, but he was like, "Go back to Dorchester," to all the Boston media in the press box, of which he thought I was one. Guy, what are you doing trolling the media? And then the Panthers, when they score their fifth or sixth goal, he throws his hat into the press box.
Yeah.
He does seem reasonably not stupid. What are you doing? So I don't know. Have you ever seen anybody troll the press box?
We have. But I'm not going to comment. I have nothing nice to say about that. So
okay, and I don't want to get anybody in trouble here.
Because that's what would happen.
Go back to Dorchester. I'm like, that's just kind of rude. Move
classless.
on. And by the way, the guy comes up at the end of the game and goes, all the Bruins media had left. He goes, "Can you throw my hat back?" I actually did. Because I know, because I'm a nice person. Moving on. Do you see, we've talked about it on this program a couple times in the last month, but the odds makers are saying the most likely Stanley Cup Final is Edmonton, Florida again. So I just have written down thoughts on another Edmonton, Florida final.
I don't even want to talk about it. It's so ridiculous that they're trying to make odds right now. The odds a year ago did not involve the Oilers, and look what happened. So I'm not going to comment on something that is so theoretical. I don't have the bandwidth for it. It's stupid. It's a dumb conversation.
But would you talk about this? Because, again, I do a television show every day on Canadian television, the Rod Peterson Show, appropriately enough. And so I've got Canadian media on there and pundits, hockey guys, and they're saying, and gals, that all the talk up there, and you and I talked about this on the couch the other day at home, was there are 3 legitimate Stanley Cup contenders: Canucks, Oilers, Leafs.
In Canada.
In Canada. 3 of the 7 teams could win the Stanley Cup. And they're saying, could you imagine an Edmonton, Toronto Stanley Cup? And they all think Americans wouldn't care. And I just want to point this out, that Game 7 last year, Oilers-Panthers, was the second most viewed Game 7 in the history of televised hockey. And one half of that series was Canadian. But you are an American citizen. I'm not yet. How would a Leafs-Oilers series go over in the U.S. of A.?
I don't think anybody here would really watch. I think that the difference between Canadian hockey fans and American hockey fans is American hockey fans have their team. Panthers fans are Panthers fans. But overall, they're not generally huge hockey fans. That's the difference. And so if their team's not playing, they're probably less apt to watch, which is understandable. You don't have to be a big hockey fan. We grew up in a different environment than they did in Florida. You don't grow up in a hockey environment here. We'll watch any game, anytime, can't wait. So it's a completely different thing. But like I said to you yesterday, if we had a situation where for 5 years in a row, it was only Canadian teams in the Stanley Cup Final, it would tank the NHL. It would tank it. The league needs, from a Gary Bettman standpoint, it needs these teams. That's what I've been saying for years. For a while, he was pushing California. So guess what? Anaheim and LA both won Stanley Cups. Then he started pushing Florida. Tampa and Florida win Stanley Cups. It's not a coincidence. He pushes. Now, nobody cares Anaheim and LA are terrible. Nobody even talks about it. But in Canada, it's always such a big topic. So no, I don't think that American fans would really watch all Canadian Stanley Cup Final.
How about Sarina Taylor? How would you feel about a Leafs-Oilers Stanley Cup Final?
If it happened this year, and I don't like to speak on this theoretical crap, but if I have to, knowing Edmonton's luck, this would be the year that the stinking Leafs actually did something. And I don't know you think I have issues now? If that happened, I don't think I could stomach it because the Leafs have been so bad for 47 years, 67 years. I can't do the math. Long time.
Since 1967.
Yeah, so it'd be 57 years?
Pre-color television.
Yeah. I mean, Foster Hewitt was still doing games.
By the way, on this thing about the regional love of hockey teams in America, I kind of relate it to this. I'm a Blue Jays fan, and I don't usually follow baseball, any other team but the Blue Jays. However, in the playoffs, I'll watch it. And you know what? It's been pretty exciting, these division series and the wild card series and all the rest. But it's just, if it's not the Blue Jays, I'm not invested, which is what you're saying about American hockey fans. If it's not the Panthers.
Yeah. Because you're a Blue Jays fan, but you're not really a baseball fan. Whereas I'm a baseball fan. I will watch baseball. Not everybody is. Okay. Canadians just are not. We watch the Blue Jays all summer, but we don't pretend to be baseball lovers. Most people really aren't. They watch the Blue Jays. There are some, yeah, of course. Just like in America, there are some hockey fans, but it's different. It's different. It's like, does anybody know what this logo is? Probably, unless you live north of the border, you have no idea where the shirt is even from. And that just indicates to me that there's not... Like, I had a conversation with a friend from California that was adamant that he's a huge hockey fan. Huge hockey fan. We were talking about Ryan Getzlaf and where he played junior, and I was like, how do you not know where these junior teams are? And he literally turned to me and goes, because it's junior hockey. Who cares? I'm like, you're the problem. That's what I'm saying. They don't care, and it's fine. It's fine. Somebody's going to watch this and argue with me. No, I'm a big hockey fan. Why is it an argument? It's okay. You know, it's like on Saturday, I said to you, I'm like, isn't it awesome that every Saturday we just get to turn on College Game Day and watch college football all day, and this country is just run off of college football? It's awesome. Be proud of that.
Right. And in Canada, it's the same way, but with junior hockey. Although I find that I'm not following it as closely as I was. So anyways, moving on to the next point. Point 4, to this storm. Imagine putting yourself in the skates of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Panthers taking off to Ottawa, and they're going to be out of here. But the Lightning are scheduled, as we record this, to open their season Friday at Carolina. They left like Monday, and they've been up in North Carolina skating all week. And then Saturday night is scheduled to be the home opener for the Lightning against the same Hurricanes, and they don't know if they're even going to play that game. And Julien BriseBois, the general manager of the Lightning, said, this is not ideal. Can you imagine? All those obviously just the people of the Gulf Coast side of Florida, and then trying to schedule hockey around it? Wild.
It's, as we've seen multiple hurricanes down here, you just never know what's going to happen. That rink, Tampa was built on the water. I mean, that place is there's going to be a lot of damage, and I think if you're worried about when your home opener is going to be, you need to prioritize your life, dude.
Who specifically are you?
BriseBois. This is not ideal. Well, no shit. Neither are either the people that are losing their homes. That's not ideal. Figuring out when you're going to have your home opener should be the least of your concerns.
I don't want to come across as if he was complaining or anything. It was just a quote that I read from BriseBois. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of COVID, and no matter what your opinions are on that, they scrubbed the end of the regular season, right? And ended up having to play in the bubble. What I'm saying is the show must still go on. Right?
It will. Yeah. I mean, the whole league's not getting affected. They'll make up the game. It's not going to be a big deal.
You don't think it'll be a big deal? But
no,
unfortunately, it's just against Carolina, which is a regional opponent.
Depending how much damage is done to the rink, though. I mean, let's be real. That rink could sustain a lot of damage. Look at what happened in Calgary with the Saddle Dome. If that was during NHL season, who knows what would have happened when the Saddle Dome got flooded.
There was flooding in Calgary, and downtown Calgary's in a valley, or a bowl, and that the whole lower bowl of the rink was flooded. It happened to be in like August, I think.
Yeah, something like that in the summer. It was before the preseason started, fortunately.
And
What's up, Benny?
Tampa's surrounded by water. So
That's what they're saying.
it's surrounded
Well,
like
yeah, everybody here that's watching this has seen the coverage. They're saying Tampa Bay is literally a sitting duck for a storm like this. So the thing with Breezeball, because there's a lot of Lightning fans that watch this. I don't want anybody to think we're being hard on him. His job is to figure this out. You know that as well as I do.
He has no control.
Which I think is what sucks about it.
Yeah, maybe that's why he's like, this isn't ideal. There's nothing he can do about it.
Today is not, we're not going to bring up Steven Stamkos. I said last week, is there ever going to be a show that we don't bring up Stamkos? This is the one that we won't.
Unless he's just happy he's in Nashville and not there now.
Yeah, which I guess is coming. We're going to talk about Nashville here in a second. Serena's got some topics that she wants to get to. But I've had people, this happens with every team, and I've been the voice of teams for a long time. We don't know what goes on. There's a story. I guess there's a story with Stamkos and the Lightning. And it's that, people are writing me now saying, oh, Steven's too classy to tell his side of the story and blah, 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 blah. But you knew there was something, right? You knew there was something.
I don't know. I mean, everybody likes to just come at me for what I said about comparing the situation with Wayne. I was like, first of all, if you guys are going to comment, please comment, but make sure it makes sense. If I have to read your comment 3 times because I have no idea what you're trying to say, read it out loud to yourself, see if it makes sense, and then post it. Half the time I don't even understand what you guys are saying, but you're attacking me. I don't even know what's going on. Secondly, keep commenting, but if you don't know what you're talking about, like who knows what's going on with Stamkos? Like stop making stuff up. Maybe there was something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everybody blamed Wayne's wife when it happened. Like maybe that was the case, maybe not. I don't know. It doesn't matter now.
Listen, we can't get wound up about what people say. I just appreciate the comments. I don't get too worked up about it. I believe there is a comparison between Gretzky and Stamkos. They both won multiple championships. They were both in a place for a long time. As a matter of fact, Stamkos is in Tampa longer than Wayne was in Edmonton. You know what I mean? Like it is comparable. Whether people believe that it's not is fine. Moving on, though, this was kind of fun. The other night after the Panthers 6-4 win over the Boston Bruins, we're in there interviewing the players, interviewing Paul Maurice, and I'm ready to go. And the Panthers PR staff said, just hang on, we got another surprise for you. And I'm like, oh, more gifts? What do you got?
What else you got for us?
Yeah, they're like, get your phones out, get your cameras out. And all of a sudden they brought in Bill Zito and Carter Verhaeghe, and they announced, surprise, an 8-year extension for Carter Verhaeghe, who's your favorite Panther. Still?
Best one.
Yeah. You'd get an argument whether he's the best one or not.
Of course, which is going to bring us to our list coming up here. But the first time, this is why I love Carter Verhaeghe. First of all, he's a good Ontario kid. Second of all, I saw him, the first game I saw him play, he leveled out Alex Ovechkin. And I was like, this kid is here to play. And I just loved him ever since then. He plays with grit.
Well,
he's smart. He's extremely smart. And I absolutely love him.
Well, what's amazing about that is he's not very big. He's somewhat slight. And Ovi is a bloody fridge. So for him to lay him out.
Yeah, he hit him. Yeah, he hit him pretty hard.
means
Ovi's
something.
usually pretty solid on his skates. He just caught him going to the bench or something, right, where he was probably off balance.
So whatever the money was, I don't want to get into pull the curtain back of how things work, but they announced Verhaeghe an 8-year extension, but there was no money terms tossed around. So I'm kind of asking around going, you know me, in the room, and they're like, wait till let the insiders report it. Who those guys are. You probably know if you're a hockey fan, you're watching this, the Pierre LeBruns, the Darren Dregers, the Elliot Freemans, whatever. I think they said it was around 56, 57 million, which works out to $7 million per season. I guess what I have here is Panthers extend Carter Verhaeghe. What's that say? Because what it says to me, and I said to Bill Zito, I said, just to clarify, this is to kick in next year. And he's like, yep. You got the Boston Bruins waiting until the start of the regular season to get their goalie extended, or else he's not going to play for this year. Bill Zito's so far ahead of everybody else, he's got next year's budget planned, is what that tells me. And I believe he is that far ahead of everybody else.
I don't know if he's Listen, that's obviously very smart. I don't want to give him that much credit. There's other guys doing that.
Sure.
But the Swayman thing it just happened. It happens to every team, happens to every general manager. It happens all the time. Smart, yes. He's got what it sounds like a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year plan in place. This is what I want to have happen with the salary cap, expected salary cap extensions, whatever it happens to be. He's not screwing around. But that also means he's going, okay, these are guys. That means he's got guys on the chopping block already for next year. He's got guys on the trade deadline coming up when the trade deadline comes. So he wants to lock in a guy like Verhaeghe because when the trade deadline comes, somebody's going to go. They're going to have to. Right? That's why he's putting it off to next year so he can make room.
Absolutely. But my point, listen, full disclosure here, Dallas Cowboys fan. The contract extension for Dak Prescott, the quarterback, went down to the morning of the first game this year. And CeeDee Lamb held out of training camp to the end of training camp. They don't have a plan in Dallas. And even as it was a short contract for Dak Prescott. So you're saying 2, 3, 4, 5-year plan here. Don't act like that's common. The good teams have that. The bad teams do not.
Potentially, yeah. It comes down to, I feel like though in the NFL, you have a lot more owner involvement than you do in the NHL. NHL, they leave it up to the general managers to deal with that. Vinny Viola's going, bro, I don't know. You're going to sort it, Bill Zito. So it's a little different, I think. Can you imagine working for Jerry Jones?
I wouldn't want to.
That's what I'm saying.
I'd
It'd
quit.
be difficult. Yeah. So it's a little different of a ball game, I think.
Well, you know what? From what I hear from my sports people is that the NHL and NFL, the way they run at the ownership level, GM level, are completely polar opposite. Black and white. Not anywhere similar at all. The reasons for that is not something we'll get into. That's not what this show is about. But I will say congratulations to Carter Verhaeghe. I know fans get excited about him getting married, who he got married to, and all the rest. But I'll say this before we move on. To stand behind him or beside him, and thank you, Panthers, for the media accreditation and everything. Sarina, you and I are both empaths. I think we can say that. You could feel the genuine gratitude from Carter Verhaeghe.
Even being in a press conference last year with him and Matthew Tkachuk at the same time, there's a different vibe between those two. Tkachuk is Tkachuk. We all know that.
He's got an edge.
Sure. But there's something about Verhaeghe. He's just a special person. I don't know him personally. You can tell there's something special about him. When you look at him, when you watch him play, he's just that guy that he's probably his mom's favorite. You know what I mean? Like he's just that guy. Just a great person.
That reminds me, there are a lot of people that will say Tkachuk is special too. David Pastrnak is not one of them. I don't even know if you watched the game the other night, but Pastrnak was like getting in Tkachuk's face. And we're all said, do it, let's go, you two. It didn't happen. But these two teams, they do not like each other. And by the way, I'm so happy the Panthers fans, there'll be a day that I bitch about this, but they are writing me going, what do you think is going to happen tonight? What's your over-under on penalty minutes? And I'm here for it. It's what I wanted when we started doing this, and I came here however many years ago it was to have this conversation with the fans. It's fun as hell. I didn't think it would be as much of a dust-up as it was. I think the Bruins are now the Panthers' number one rival.
I would say that's probably fair, and as it should be. A lot of people here, I was having a conversation at Publix with the produce manager, Ed. And we were chatting, I think his name's Ed, and he's like, I got to ask you, you always wear an Oilers jacket in here. Because I keep my Oilers jacket in the car because it's so cold in Publix. And he's like, got to ask, we had a big talk about hockey, and we were talking for some reason about the Edmonton and Calgary rivalry. He's like, yeah, that's like Florida and Tampa. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not even close. People here want that rivalry, but it's never happened for some reason. There's just not. Yes, it's a little bit more intense, but it's just not the same. The Florida-Boston thing, it always takes a cheap shot by somebody to really build a rivalry. Look at the rivalry between Detroit and Colorado that happened. From dirty plays, dirty hits, goaltenders fighting. It's just that, obviously, Edmonton and Calgary, there's that stuff, but...
Here's the sucky thing, and as an NHL fan lifelong, I've watched the Tampa-Florida rivalry from afar before I actually lived here. And it was Tampa was here and Florida was here, and now it's like this. Flames Oilers were born, they were like this. They were both pretty even, right? Banging heads all the time.
It's still Calgary's.
Oh, they still hate each other, but
garbage.
but it's not a competitive rivalry right now.
Sure, but Calgary was garbage last year, and it's just something needs to happen to create a rivalry.
That
is what I'm
too.
saying. Like I said, like Colorado and Detroit. If you haven't been watching hockey for a long time, that was a war in the 90s. A war. It was so entertaining to watch because of the things that happened.
Yeah. Well, I think there's no doubt that the Bruins are now the Panthers' #1 rival. They're both good. They've met in the playoffs the last couple of years.
And played each other.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of dust-ups there.
Yeah, and I like rough hockey. I don't like cheap hockey, and the games have largely been rough. Now, I said to Sarina, there's a couple points that she wanted to get to before we wrap up Season 2, Episode 6, the Storm episode here in a second. But the #1 NHL story, I feel, league-wide, here it's, will the Panthers make 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals, but league-wide, it's Utah. And I kind of feel bad because I'm like, you're getting a bad team, right? But I guess my question to you, because that's the Arizona Coyotes relocated this summer, nobody thinks they're going to make the playoffs. They're not. I think they're going to finish last place in the Central Division, though. But do you think moving to a new place and that positive lift will be enough to, even for a few more wins? Like, I don't think it'll get them into the playoffs.
I don't know. I mean, you go from playing in Mullet Arena that seats 5,000, didn't even fill it, to playing in a place where people are happier. Sure, maybe. Like, they're going to be excited to check out this new team. But at the end of the day, it's still players playing there. I think that when they get an overhaul of their players and get some fresh blood in there, that's going to be different. It's hard when you go from one place to the next. Like, if we all uprooted and we went to a different podcast studio, it would be a worse experience. We would not be happy, right? It would just be one of those things.
Ben liked that one.
Yeah, Benny's not going. You're not going anywhere. Don't worry. But yeah, I think it'll be a little bit of a boost for them, but they're not going to make the playoffs or anything.
I think well, they won their first game 5-2 over Chicago the other night, and I got home in time after the Panthers game to watch the end of that. It was exciting. I think it sucks that Arizona doesn't have a hockey team, and I know what everybody will say, including you. If it sucked that much, they should have filled the barn. It was a good thing. There was a lot of great hockey players born there. Austin Matthews, Matthew Tkachuk, Tage Thompson. Like, it was kind of coming, but I also understand why they left. I do. You did want to talk about Nashville. Why?
Well, because you asked me what's the major topic I want to talk about. I guess Nashville. I don't feel like it's a hot topic, but I'm just so interested to see what they're going to do this year. Because to be honest, I haven't heard anybody talk about them being a Stanley Cup contender. And not saying they are. I'm just saying with all the acquisitions that they made in the offseason, everybody in the offseason was like, oh, man, these guys are going to roll everybody. They're going to have a great team, whatever. But no one's really talking about what's happening. And Nashville's probably happy about that. Nobody wants to be labeled a Stanley Cup contender because then they have to live up to that. It's like trying to re-win the Stanley Cup for a second year. It's harder to win it 2 years in a row. Nobody wants that label. So I was just curious what your thoughts were on what you think Nashville's going to do this year.
It's funny you say that because I spent, as she knows, decades as the voice of a football team and the voice of a hockey team, and the mentality is totally different. In football, it's, why aren't you talking about us? Why aren't you showing us respect? Why aren't you picking us to win? And hockey's like, don't pick us to win. We don't want to. Don't pick us, right?
Us, yeah.
It's 180 degrees opposite, and it took me a long time to figure that out. Football guys want to be talked about. Hockey people would rather not. And with Nashville, I kind of get a kick out of this because I listen to NHL radio almost every day, and it was really funny. Gord Stellick, former GM of the Leafs, hosts a radio show on there, and he goes, thank God the preseason's over. It wasn't that compelling. We can talk about the regular season now. It was really good. And I'm like, finally somebody said it. It doesn't matter.
I said it, and everybody's like, yeah, whatever. But
yeah, so you got to fill shows. Yeah. Nah. I just like to go watch hockey, as do you. But my point is Nashville came here and looked like they didn't care. And that was Stamkos' debut. Now, it didn't matter. I get that. We can't judge anything out of the preseason at all. But I watched them, and I'm like, I expected more. Jonathan Marchessault didn't play. They have some new faces. Ryan O'Reilly did. They should be good, you know?
Yeah, but it's like I said when we were talking about it, when we had one of these episodes, when all this was happening, I'm like, everybody just expects it to happen. You got to build chemistry. You have to take the time and do that. It takes a long time. Again, going back to the Panthers, they figured out the chemistry, got rid of the guys that didn't fit that routine, and got guys that did. But it does take time. That's why you can't dump your whole team right away. Nashville got such an overhaul that who knows what's going to happen.
Oh, my God. There's a new book out called Franchise, Building a Successful Hockey Team, something like that. I had the author on my television show the other day, Craig Custance, and he talked about this. You know, I kind of like the topic of building teams. I know you do too. And he called it a copycat league and how everybody looks at how the Stanley Cup champions have done it and they want to do it like them. There was an article published the other day. I meant to send it to you, but you're so busy, I'm sure you wouldn't have had time to read it. But it was about the coaching volatility of the big four leagues, NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL. Coaching in the NHL is the most volatile. Half the league has new coaches in new places. Peter DeBoer of Dallas, this is the quote. He goes, "It's insanity." He goes, "This is the world we live in now, but it's like going out for dinner, getting married, and then divorced before the appetizers arrive." That's what he said.
He would say that.
Yeah, and he's like, "What? How are you supposed to build a team? How are you supposed to build chemistry? How do you form relationships? You're gone. You're fired."
That's exactly the conversation I had with you on your show yesterday about Mike Keenan. Exactly. Why was Mike Keenan successful? Because back in the 80s, when they played the Oilers in the Stanley Cup Final, Mike Keenan was coaching the Flyers. Glenn Sather was coaching the Oilers. You had the same coaches on the same bench with the same players for years. That's why we had dynasties. That's why Montreal won 4 in a row. Then the Islanders won 4 in a row. Then the Oilers won 5 of 7 because you had the same guys on the same teams. That doesn't happen anymore. So they had the opportunity to build that chemistry. Any guy in the world would kill to work for a Glenn Sather on the bench or a Mike Keenan or, I mean, any of those guys, like even a Teddy Nolan, not quite as old as that, but Ted Nolan was a fantastic coach and poof, he's gone, right? And now that doesn't happen. You don't have coaches that do that. It's I can't even imagine how difficult it would be to be a coach. Paul Maurice knew when he needed to pull the plug in Winnipeg. He knew. He's like, this chemistry is not going to work here. I'm out because I can't fix this. I don't blame him. He quit his job like any other normal human being in Canada would quit their job. Well, I can go to Florida and coach there. Done.
Which he didn't know at the time.
No, of course. But like when he didn't have a job, right? It's the same. It's a job. Yeah. And if you, as a coach, it takes time to build relationships with your players. The longer my clients work with me as their coach, the better I get with them, the better their bodies respond. It's physiological, right? So whenever you're working with a client or a student or a coach or whatever for a long time, you're not only building that relationship, you're understanding how they tick. And that's why Mike Keenan was good. And that's why Glenn Sather was the best.
And
that's it.
Yeah, and they quoted in that article, I should send it to you, you'd enjoy it, about the coaching volatility. Sam Reinhart goes, if you're going to fire your coach because you're not happy, 31 teams aren't happy. Or only one team can win.
Yeah.
You know, and Vincent Trocheck goes, former Panther, now with the Rangers, he goes, I'm not sure what the shelf life is or average, stint for coaches in the NHL is, but it can't be long.
Well, and that's an interesting topic because Trocheck, from what I understand, is not a dressing room guy and he's a pain in the ass. And the reason he got shifted out of here, it was either him or somebody else had to go. So it was like they did the right thing, kept the coach and got rid of Trocheck, sent him to Carolina where nobody cares, right? Now he's a place where a lot of people care.
Don't piss off the Carolina fans. I did that last year.
But he's right. He's right. Sometimes the coaches get the flack, just like sometimes the goalies get the flack. Goalie might let in 5 goals, any of them might not be his fault, but he's going to go.
Yeah, well, that was it's like getting married and divorced before the appetizer shows up. What Sarina wanted to talk about was the NHL Top 10 from the NHL Network and also ESPN. We are out of time, but I feel like that's a topic that can be pushed to next week or the week after? Because it's not going anywhere. But you have some strong thoughts.
I definitely want to talk about it next week because we saw the top 10 from the NHL Network, and I was like, did y'all just pick names out of a hat? It was atrocious, embarrassing. I was like, this, who picked these? So then I Googled it and saw ESPN's, and I was like, this makes a little bit more sense.
Maybe it was Bill Lindsay. He's at NHL Network.
Well, I'm going to ask Bill. No, because Bill has a brain.
Because Bill knows. I was totally joking. Okay. Well, to our Canadian viewers, gobble, gobble. You want to tell people what that means?
That's a turkey sound. For those of you who don't know, it's a turkey sound. But what it means is it's Canadian Thanksgiving this weekend.
Yeah, so happy Thanksgiving to our Canadian viewers. And thank you, Sarina. Thank you, Ben, the great Ben Castro, the maestro of the Cats and Bolts podcast. We'll see you next time here from Podcast Junkie Studio.